Hi guys, welcome to this video. This is Prashant. I'm the founder of Word Pandit, and I'm bringing this series of videos to you wherein I explain to you previous year CAT questions, previous year CAT RCs. Here's we've got a CAT 2018 RC. This passage appeared in CAT 2018 Slot-2 exam. We'll be taking up a passage analysis here. What do we mean by passage analysis? What do we mean by this? What I'll be doing in this particular video is I'll be explaining this passage in detail, and I'll explain the important points, the important things mentioned here, what is the meaning of different parts of the passage, and the important aspects of the passage that you should derive from the passage when you read the passage, right? These are going to help you solve RC questions. So now in this particular case, the passage that we are dealing with deals with the problem of meritocracy. Now what is meritocracy? That's the first thing that you've got to identify here is meritocracy says that it's a system of organization where people are lined up according to merit, right? So any government institution, any power structure, any organization, you select people on the basis of merit and no other factors, right? So the best person gets selected for the job. This merit might be established through any particular medium. So for example, competitive exams are a method of establishing merit, right? Or exam scores for that matter, your class 10th, class 12th marks. These are all examples of establishing merit. We've got parameters for doing this. In fact, all IQ tests are also in a way involved in establishing merit. Now, this is the backdrop of the passage. Now, let's go through the passage itself. The passage starts off with the line, the complexity of modern problems often prevents any one person from fully understanding them. So the modern problems are such that no one person can completely understand a problem. Factors contributing to rising obesity levels, for example. So this is an example that is taken up. So for example, factors contributing to rising obesity levels include transportation systems, infrastructure, media, convenience foods, changing social norms, human biology, and psychological factors. So there are a lot of things which are contributing to rising obesity levels. It's not one single thing. The multidimensional or layered character of complex problems also undermines the principle of meritocracy, the idea that the best person should be hired. There is no best person. Now look at it this way. If rising obesity levels in the world include all these different factors, and these different factors will have different experts in them. Now if there are these different factors and each of these factors has a different expert in them, can there be one single person who can deal with that problem? That's the argument of the author. The author is laying his argument right at the front, right? He's laying it down. He's saying, this is my argument. When putting together an oncological research team, oncology deals with tumors, medical science that deals with the research and treatment of tumors, a biotech company such as Gilead or Genentech would not constitute an MCQ test and hire top scorers or hire people whose resume score highest according to some performance criteria. So they are not hiring people based on MCQ tests. Instead, they would seek diversity. They would build a team who would bring diverse knowledge bases, tools, and analytical skills. So basically, companies would seek diversity. So the first paragraph, it implies that what do companies seek? They seek diversity. I'm writing a D here. Believers in meritocracy might grant that teams ought to be diverse, but argue that meritocratic principles should apply within each category. So they argue that meritocratic principles should apply within each category. You hire diversely. So for example, you needed for 5 knowledge domains in a particular, for obesity, you needed 5 knowledge domains. So you hire 5 different people to deal with obesity. But the thing is, within those categories, so psychologists, transportation experts, etc., 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 you hire the best person. Thus, the team should consist of best mathematicians, best oncologists, best biostatisticians from within the pool. That position suffers from a similar flaw. So another position introduced by the author, another position discounted by the author. This line highlights that even within a knowledge domain, no test or criteria apply to individuals which produce the best team. Each of these domains possesses such depth and breadth, no test can exist. Consider the field of neuroscience. Upwards of 50,000 papers were published last year, covering various techniques, domains of inquiry, levels of analysis, etc., etc. Given that complexity, any attempt to rank a collection of neuroscientists from best to the worst as if they were competitors in a 50-meter butterfly must fail. So he's saying you cannot really judge people on the basis of tests within domains as well. So you wanted the best oncologists, mathematicians, biostatisticians in your team, but when you went out and tried to select them, you came up with tests. Now, will these tests really help you identify that particular talent? He takes up the example of the field of neuroscience. 50,000 papers were published. What does this number imply? 50,000 papers imply 50,000 different things were researched in the world, right? Now, if there is such diversity within a field itself, how do you identify who's the best or the worst neuroscientist? You can't. What could be true is that given a specific task and a composition of a particular team, one scientist would be more likely to contribute than another. Optimal hiring depends upon context. Optimal teams need to be diverse. So the next pointer, optimal hiring, it depends upon context. First paragraph, it was diversity. Second paragraph, it is context. And importantly, you cannot have a test to judge the domain depth and breadth, because there is just so much knowledge in a single domain or depth. Evidence for this claim can be seen in the way papers and patents that combine diverse ideas tend to rank to have a higher impact. So, an evidence for this particular factor, optimal hiring and optimal teams, you see papers and patents with diverse ideas and teams, right? It can also be found in the structure of the so-called random decision-making forest, a state-of-the-art machine learning algorithm. So this is another part of the passage from where the author has based questions, and it's an important part. So there is a state-of-the-art machine learning algorithm which is a random decision-making forest. What happens in this? Random forest consists of ensembles of decision trees. These are trees which take decisions. So you basically just put a visual, right? So different factors making different decisions, or different trees are, if you look at the real world equivalent, right, it's about collecting a set of people in a room, right, and asking them for your opinion. Since you can't collect people in an algorithm, so you have a random forest, you have these decision making trees. If classifying picture, each tree makes a vote. Is that picture a fox or a dog? A weighted majority rules. So on the basis of a weighted majority, you decide whether the picture represents a fox or a dog, and you assume that the weighted majority would be correct. Random forests can serve many ends. They can identify bank fraud, diseases, recommended ceiling fans, and predict online dating behavior. So basically what you do is you ask a random set of trees, you give them attributes, and you pose questions to them, and you know what should be the behavior of the group based on your statistical modeling. Now, if there is a deviation from the behavior, you can identify that this is the particular question or this is the particular place where there is a problem. So in order to identify bank fraud, you would be feeding it that algorithm a set of data, and you'll be identifying, okay, this is the behavior where there is a problem, this is the place where there is a problem, this is the weak part of our banking structure. When building a forest, you do not select the best trees as they tend to make similar classifications. You want diversity. So it's not about the best trees, because the best trees will have similar classifications. That means they will have the same attributes, right? Basically the machine learning algorithm has these trees with different attributes. The best trees all have the similar attributes. If they have the similar attributes, they are going to exhibit similar behavior. That's not going to help you identify issues in where you're trying to use these algorithms, right? Programmers achieve the diversity by training each tree on different data, a technique known as bagging. So you basically have different data. They also boost the forest cognitively, so the thinking power of the forest, by training trees on the hardest cases, those that the current forest gets wrong. So basically you train them on the hardest cases. This is about iterations, right? So you keep giving someone a set of data, they keep returning the wrong values, you keep tweaking the algorithm till that current forest gets it right. So how do you train the particular forest? By giving it hardest cases. Now the reverse of this would also imply, right? This means if you give easy cases to forest, easy cases would be ones which they get right, they are not really going to learn, and if they are not going to learn, when you give them a hard case, they will not be able to crack it. This ensures more diversity and accurate forest. Yet the fallacy of meritocracy persists. Companies, non-profits, governments, universities, and even preschools score and hire the best. They test, they score and hire the best. So all these corporations, you've got recruitment exams, you've got universities, you've got entrance tests, they are all testing, scoring and hiring the best. This all but guarantees not creating the best team. Ranking people by common criteria produces homogeneity. That's not likely to lead to breakthroughs. If you think about this, if you are going to have a common criteria for identifying people, what is going to happen? A similar kind of people. So for example, there is any particular test which focuses on different skills. We can take up the CAT exam, which focuses on CAT, LRDI and VARC, right? Three different subjects for the simple reason that you can identify people with different skill sets. If it had only had QA in it, right? If it only had quant in it, and you basically selected people on the basis of just this one subject, what is it that you will be doing in that particular case? You will be getting, or you will be selecting a set of people who have very, very similar skill sets. So you don't want that. Hence, there is diversity in the exam itself. Now you can take it down to another level. People are selected for their MBAs not based on the test alone, and there are lots of other criteria as well. What do those other criteria do? They add more diversity. So that's the intent here of the author of the passage. Probably this is why this particular passage appeared in the exam as well. So to justify diversity in the CAT exam. So this is what this particular passage is all about. Hopefully so you're clear with the content for this passage and you've understood the major points for this passage. Thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, happy learning.